Hello and welcome to a tutorial on Unity's new input system. This will be a movement tutorial, but it'll be using the Unity new input system. So this system I think was brought out quite a few years ago, but it's the newer system or the newer form of input management for Unity. And it's quite weird to get used to if you're used to the old system for Unity. So I'll give you an example by creating a script. As you can see, I have your standard script here. And normally, if you wanted to add some kind of input for whatever you want, you'd normally do. You probably start with an. You'd start with an if statement. You go input dot get key or get key down, and you do key code dot I don't know space. And then, you'd put whatever you want it to do in here, make it move and everything. But with the new input system, it's quite different to that, and it's you can get a lot more how to put it, you can get a lot more customization out of it, and it's easier if you want to add change of keybinds and things, which I won't be going over in this video, but there's a lot of tutorials out there if you want to get into that stuff. But yeah, it's just a lot easier to use the newer input system to do things like that. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with the old system. If you're happy with the old system, then you don't have to watch this tutorial. You can stick with the old system, whatever. But for those who are interested, keep watching. And yeah, I'll get into it right now. So basically, start off with, you will not have the new input system in your project. You will have to import it from the packages section. So if you go to the window tab at the top left, package manager, it'll pull up the package manager. And if you go into Unity registry, so if you change this up here, it'll say packages in project. If you switch to the Unity registry, it'll show you all the possible packages you can add to your project. And we just want the input system, this one here. It should say from Unity registry by Unity Technology Inc. A new input, and in the description it will say a new input system which can be used as a more extensible and customizable alternative Unity Classic input system. Blah blah blah. If you're doing just hit install, it might take a bit. So there you go. As you can see, it's just finishing installing here. It's compiling all the scripts and everything. There we go. So what will happen is it'll come up with this message saying this project is using the new input system package, but the native platform backends for the new input system are not enabled in the player settings. This means that no input from native devices will come through. So basically what it's saying is to fully implement the systems, it will need to restart the Unity editor. So just click yes. And again, it will continue loading, and it will reload all the scripts that you've created. Obviously, I only had one, and it will reload Unity as well. So we can close the package manager now, as we shouldn't have any need for it. Okay, so now we have the input system installed, the input package installed. We can go to here. We can create, and we can create an input actions. So call this whatever you want. I'll just call this just input. I'll just call it inputs. You can call it whatever you like. You can call it main inputs or whatever you want. I just call it inputs. It doesn't really matter, but it should come up with this input actions menu. And if you've ever used a Godot before, which I know a lot of you probably have because of my Godot tutorials, imagine the new input system or this menu here to be a lot like Godot's key mapping or whatever it's called, where you can add an action. You can call it whatever you want. I'll call it player. So this action map will hold all the different actions. So it's like having I guess like a folder for all the different inputs you want to add. And we also have this new action, which you can also rename. So you can name it like movement or something. Oh. And then you have the bindings, which are the actual keys. And as you can see, you can add a ton of different things, this is one of the main benefits to using the new input system, as it's not only you don't have to individually add different movements. Once you call it in script, once you've added everything here, if you call it in script, you can you can have a keyboard and a joystick movement and whatever else all in one movement like action. But yeah, so if you don't want to create your own things, you don't have to. Unity does come with its own like original input actions, but if you want to, you can go through here. There's a ton of customization you can get with this. If you want, you can just type in, let's say I just want the W key. Oh, sorry, go in here and just type W, and you see it says W keyboard, and I can press enter, and then you can add individual bindings. You can have positive and negative. You can see there's a bunch of customization you can get here. So you can get like a different axis, and if I delete that, yeah, you can just customize it however you want. I know there's a ton of tutorials out there. I'm not too familiar with anything else, but if you're kind of a novice like me, it's a lot easier if you just use the regular Unity's pre-built stuff, because it has a lot of it already there. So what we'll do, we'll create a plane. Make sure the camera's looking at it. Let's grab the camera, let's pull it closer. Maybe I'll rotate it down to make it actually look at the flooring better. There we go, that's fine. And then I will create a cube and put it on the ground. 0.5, there you go. So yeah, so what I'll do, I'll go to this this cube, which is going to be the player, and what I can do is I can add a player input. And as you see here, it has an action slot on it. So this player input is basically what you, well, as the name sort of implies, is what calls all the inputs, what you can use to call inputs and whatever. And as you see here, it wants the input actions. So what I could do, I could drag this one in here, fill the slot, and it will remove this little message box here. But if we read this message box, it says that no inputs or actions are associated with this input component yet. And what we can do is we can click this button here. And if you find a space for it, I'll just leave it in the assets folder for now. Click save. And as you see here, Unity has created its own. Oh, let me remove that tab. Unity has created its own separate movement component. And as you see here, they've added the left stick for gamepad, so that's like a controller. You have WSAND, which is they've put on a Vector 2, and you see it's got the arrow keys and the keyboard inputs for up, down, left, and right, WSAND. It also has I think it's just a different type of controller. Yeah, it's got a few different types of controllers, and then WSAND. Also, it has a look in here, so if your game doesn't have a fixed camera, if you've got actual first-person game, you can also use these to you can use those to help with to look around. Sorry. And of course, it's got a fire button as well, which obviously doesn't have to be shoot. It could be like an interact button or something. But you see, right trigger, left mouse button, all these different things. And as you see here, it's also got control schemes, which these are up here. So what you'll need to do if you're creating your own custom thing, you'll need to add control schemes for the different controllers and stuff. So if you go here and then you go add control scheme, it'll want you to name it. So I guess just as an example, I'll name it keyboard. And then it'll see the scheme. It says this list is empty here. If you click plus, and then you can find it. So keyboard's there. If I press enter. Oh, done it wrong. So if we just leave it like that, and if I just go keyboard Press enter, and as you see here, it comes up with keyboard. And basically, you can set up here whether it's required that they use a keyboard or not. So I'll just put it optional, and then you can press add, and then it will add the new control scheme. But obviously we don't really want that, so I'm going to delete that control scheme as we've got everything we already want in here. But basically, if I'd kept that, I could add it in here, and then I can change what control scheme this uses. So basically, if you see on here, this XR controller movement here is set to the XR control scheme. WSAD, I'm sure, is, yeah, all these individual inputs are set to keyboard and mouse. Left stick is set to gamepad because it's on the gamepad, and then joystick is set to joystick on the movement here. So yeah, so that's the sort of basics of action maps and input actions. As you see here, there's also like options you can have, like UI and stuff. So this is for like navigating the menus. This is for like basically like clicking or like submit, whatever, cancel, point, like as in like moving around, I think. And then there's click, the scroll wheel. Like, yeah, there's a bunch of different things you can add. There's a lot of customization you can get with this, and I know for me sometimes it can get quite confusing. So you don't have to use this. You can use both input systems at once. So you can still use the old one, or you could just not use this package at all and just completely use the old system. It's completely up to you. And yeah, as I said, it's just yeah, if you do learn it and you do put in time effort, it may be a bit of a benefit, may benefit you to learn it basically. So yeah, now onto the movement. So as you see here, we've got the move action here, and what we can do is we can go into our movement script. You see here, and what we need to do is call our input map and our input actions into the script. So first we want to say that we're using the new input system. So if I go using so if you go using Unity Engine input system, that will basically say that we're using the new input system. Like if you were calling UI or TextMesh Pro, you have to call the input system as well. And then what we'll need to do is basically call all the actions and whatever we want to use. So to call the values, literally all we want to do is up here, we want to add the player input. So player input, and I'm just going to call it player input. So that is the component we put on the player. And I'm also going to create, oh, I didn't need to go down twice then. I'm also going to create the input action, which is going to be the move action. So this input action is the one that was created on the player by Unity. So this one here, that's the move, that's the action we're going to call through the script. So if we go back to the script, what we then want to do is actually assign these values. So yeah, what we want to do is we want to assign the player input down here. So if we go player input equal get component player input. To assign the move action, what we need to do is do move action equals the player input dot actions dot find action, and then we just type in the name of the action that we want to access. So for me, it'll be move. As if we go back to Unity, this action here is called move. You have to type it in exactly as it's typed out here. So if you created your own custom one and it's not called move, or it's like in all lowercase or something, type it out exactly as that is in the input actions menu. Yeah, so that should be both the actions called. So what we can do now is we can create our own function here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call mine void move. or void movement, or whatever you want to call it, just name it, doesn't really matter. And there we go, created our own function. Sorry, it doesn't like movement, so I'll just call it move player or something. Yeah. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna create another public variable up here, a public float called move speed. And obviously, same with the old input system, you need we don't need, but you can having a move speed variable up here, making it public is quite nice for adjusting the player speed, and it's actually quite. But to actually code in the input, to actually code in the input here is a lot different, because as you can see in the movement here, this is a vector 2, but we're in a 3D game, so we need to convert this input of a vector 2 into a vector 3 and also get a direction for it. So to do this, we start off with making a custom vector 2 called direction, and this will equal to the move action dot read value vector 2. We then want to use this direction basically to actually add the movement. So what I want to do is use this direction to actually add in the movement. So this will be similar to how you would add in the input before. So what we want to do is do transform.position, as we want the player's position to change. And we want this to plus equal a new vector 3. And it's going to be direction dot x comma 0 comma direction dot y. And then what we want to do is we want to times all this by movement speed, move speed is what I called it. And then we want to times this by time dot delta time. Cool. So if we save that, we should be good. So as you can see here, this line is quite similar to what you do with the old input system, as inside the if statement, this is what something similar to what this is what you put, but obviously instead of just putting the transform.position here, or the transform.up, down, left, right, whatever, because it's not just one set direction that we're getting from this input, when you basically need to assign it a direction based on this here. So we convert it to the vector 3 like I said we needed, and then we use the direction value here to get the x and the y position. Okay, cool. So if we save that and go back to Unity, I'm going to switch back to the scene, and what we want is to access the player and add the movement script to the player. I don't want that there. I'm going to put mine, drag it at the bottom. Ooh. And I'm going to say a few things first. So make sure that you don't change anything inside the player input thing here, apart from assigning the right input actions up here, as obviously it needs access to the right input actions to actually work, and it needs the player input needs to be on the same object as the script to work, because the movement script calls the player input component based on the object it's on. So it needs to be on the same object, unless you coded it differently to how I've called it. Alright, cool. And also make sure you set the movement speed. I'll just put it to 10 for now. It doesn't really matter, as it's public and you can change it however you like, but just by dragging it or typing in the number. Okay, I've just realized we need to call the function up here, so I'm going to put this in here. Here we go. So now the input should work. again, make sure you put, you put everything on here correct, you've got the movement speed in, and you actually add the function to the update function, and don't forget like I did. Okay, cool. Now it should be working. There you go. And you have movement using the new input system. So if I had a controller or something right now, which I don't currently, and not that it would really matter to you because you can't see what I'm doing, but what you could do right now is you could plug in some kind of controller or something, and it should also allow you to move. I'm not sure how well it would work, as we it should work the same as the way we coded it is just based on a general input rather than just a flat out you've pressed the W key, move this way. So yeah, as long as you have it in the input map as a controller stick or whatever, then you should be able to use this script for control. It should be able to work with movement, should work with controllers. It should be working with, it works with the keyboard. Work with a few different variety of controllers due to the different variety of controller movements that have been put in here. But yeah, that should be it for this video. If you did enjoy, please like and subscribe. I've also recently made a Discord server that if you have any problems with this tutorial or any previous tutorials, then I'll leave a link to the video in the description, the Discord link in the description, sorry. So you can join that and you can get help from there. And I may not be able to respond 24/7 as I do have other things going on, whatever. But if you do message in there, either I can respond, or if other people are in there, they can respond and they can help with you. But it'll just be a better place for, if you have problems, you can go there instead of putting in the comment section, because obviously in Discord you can send videos and images and things, so it's a lot easier to help with problems. So yeah, like I said, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. Leave a comment of what you want to see, what kind of videos you want to see. If you want to see more tutorial style content, I could do that. If you want to see me do more just random development stuff, if you have any ideas for different challenges or things you'd like to see me do, then I can try and do those as well. But yeah, thank you for watching, and yeah, I'll see you in another video.